Goff just started to get it all working again. Composed, in control. What a pass. That connection is everything here again. Great motion across. Just fully in control of the offense. Gets the block he needs. Knows he's going to get Amon-Ra. Bing, bang, boom. The Detroit Lions showed resiliency in their Week 7 road divisional victory in Minnesota. After the 31-29 win, the Lions now stand at 5-1 and sit atop the NFC. Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Johnny Gaz. Thank you for returning for another video. Let's go through our Week 7 report card and hand out grades from this pivotal NFC North matchup. Let's go. Before we recap what happened in Minnesota, make sure to hit that like button if you dig the vibe here at Johnny Gaz Sports. Hitting that subscription button and notify bell is the best way you don't miss any future videos, and I'd love it if you consider subscribing. We're just over 2,100 now thanks to you guys. There is a membership option available where I will give all my live game play-by-play reaction, tier lists, and a ton of other fun content, but there is always free stuff here for you all the time. Make sure to comment down below, what did you think of this Week 7 victory in Minnesota? Did the Lions have enough on defense to hold in there, and can they sustain that? Do they still need help at that edge position? Let's dive into this Week 7 report card. In this football game, the Lions fell into a 10-0 hole and also looked doomed after the Monty fumble 6 from Minnesota to take the lead late in the fourth quarter. But the Lions were able to lean on their dynamic offense and what is now an MVP caliber quarterback to pull out this victory. Jake Bates hits a game-sealing 44-yard field goal with 15 seconds left, and the Lions are able to hold on for this victory in Skulltown. For our Week 7 report card, we'll look at the offense, defense, special teams, and coaching for this well-earned victory in Minnesota. Let's start with the offensive side of the football, and I think we have to begin with quarterback Jared Goff, who had another near-perfect performance against the Vikings. In Minnesota, he was 22 of 25 for 280 yards and had the 2 touchdowns. He was poised, he was confident, and he was in control yet again. Is Jared Goff now the front runner for the NFC MVP? I believe so. Name me a better quarterback that's playing in football right now. Over the last 4 games, Jared Goff has 76 of 91 for 1,086 yards, 9 touchdowns to 1 interception, and is averaging a 144.8 quarterback rating. He's had over 140 quarterback rating in his last 4 matchups. He leads the NFL in yards per attempt as well as quarterback rating now overall at 111.5. For those who would make the argument that Jared Goff is a worse quarterback under pressure, how about this for a stat? Under pressure in Minnesota, one of the better defenses in all of the NFL, Brian Flores. Jared Goff went 10 of 11 while being pressured for 164 yards and had those 2 TDs. Kind of an up and down day for Sonic and Knuckles, the Lions duo at running back. David Montgomery did go out of this game early with that knee injury. He did return, but really didn't look like the same player. He only had 31 yards on 9 carries and did have the go-ahead fumble there, which almost happened to be costly here for the Lions in Minnesota. On the other end of it, though, Jahmyr Gibbs was truly dynamic. The Sonic in this Sonic and Knuckles combo had the 45-yard touchdown run. He had 34 total yards on that final drive to set them up for the game-sealing field goal. Overall, Jahmyr Gibbs had 160 all-purpose yards. The wide receivers were very good in Minnesota. Amon-Ra St. Brown leading the way, 8 receptions for 112 yards in that TD that we let in on. He also had guys like Tim Patrick contributing in so many different ways, big catches in the blocking game, and Khalif Raymond getting himself involved in this Week 7 victory as well with the touchdown. J-Mo was contained in this matchup. I think Minnesota clearly made an effort not to get beat by J-Mo deep, so he really was not a factor here in Week 7. But the wide receivers in general have been very big. They were huge in Week 7, not only in the passing game, but also blocking downfield. You saw J-Mo blocking downfield for the 45-yard touchdown by Jahmyr Gibbs. You saw Tim Patrick downfield. Really, that's a big part of this offense, and they were truly showing out here in Week 7. The tight ends, I thought, were really quiet. Sam Laporta only had the 1 catch for 25 yards, only 2 targets. They did end up activating Shane Zylstra to start over Parker Hesse, but he really didn't get a lot of run here in Week 7. So again, the tight ends really more involved in the blocking schemes, not really in the passing game. We'll see kind of how that develops as we get farther into this regular season. Jumping into the offensive line, very interesting matchup here against Minnesota, who again has a tough front seven. The Brian Flores defense presents a lot of challenges. I thought the offensive line held up okay. I thought they were very shaky at first. You saw a lot of penalties, a lot of holding, procedure calls. Coyote Owasika was starting for the injured guard Kevin Zeitler, and I thought that showed itself early, but I thought they got better as the game progressed. They really started to establish themselves in the second and third quarter. But really, I just thought there were too many penalties. Only Frank Ragnow, he was the only offensive lineman not to be penalized in this game. They had 7 total of the 8 penalties given to Detroit in this matchup. They also ended up giving up 4 sacks against Jared Goff in this game. However, the running game was still very, very good. They were able to get the protection when they needed it. I thought they held up well against this Minnesota defense. Overall, for the Week 7 victory in Minnesota, I'm going to give the offense a grade of B+. I thought they were very, very good. Obviously, Jared Goff playing at MVP form. Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, your big players making big plays here to earn this victory. 31 points is nothing to write home about. That's a big-time score for the Lions, who continue this offensive explosion here in 2024. They did stall on the opening possession. We'll talk about what they did on fourth down there. But I thought they reestablished themselves in that second quarter going into the third quarter. I mean, there was a point where they had scored 4 touchdowns on 4 possessions and just looked in full control of this game. I mean, this offense is the best in football, and when they are able to establish themselves, they are really hard to stop. I thought the final drive, again, was a plus. They were able to establish themselves. You got Jahmyr Gibbs going. Jared Goff looked confident and poised and was able to put themselves in position, and they did everything they needed to do to wind that clock down to get that field goal to seal the game. Overall, though, I thought they still need to work on the penalties. That's an issue. The depth on the O-line, I think, is an issue, and that's going to apply anywhere. But I just think for the Lions, it was clear as Coyote Owasika took the role from Kevin Zeitler at guard that they did fall off just a little bit there, so that will be something to monitor moving forward. But overall, I thought the offense was very good, and they certainly look very exciting moving forward. Now let's move our report card over to the defensive side of the field here for this Detroit Lions victory in Minnesota. And let's start with that defensive line. We know the absence of Aiden Hutchinson was going to cause issues for the Lions' pressure and sack rate, and that was very evident here in this Week 7 matchup. But I thought the defense held up well. 29 points, but keep in mind they, had the very short field on that first possession of the game, and then they also gave up the fumble 6. So in general, 14 of those points really were because of either an offensive mistake or just the offense putting the defense in a tough position. So again, when you look at the big picture, I thought the defense held up well. But specifically the defensive line, I thought, was clearly missing that edge pressure, setting the edge. That was evident on that first drive where Aaron Jones has the big run for the touchdown. Josh Pascal looked okay at times, but he was in and out with injuries. He did have the 1 sack, but I didn't think there was any other edge setters for this defense. Definitely comment down below. Can the Lions sustain the current rate of pressure and everything they did in Minnesota? Yes, they earned a victory, but can this sustain itself down the road? Let me know. Do the Lions still need to go out and get another player? We'll talk about that here as we move throughout the week. And the linebackers, I thought, were very good in this game in Minnesota. I mean, the tackling of the Detroit linebacking core is truly fantastic. The Minnesota Vikings were able to complete passes over the middle of the field, but once they were able to complete those passes, it was over. The linebackers for Detroit wrapped them up. There was literally no yards after catch in this matchup, and that is attributed to the linebackers. I also thought that Aaron Glenn really used them a lot in their heavier blitz package schemes, bringing up linebackers as part of those pressures, and they were able to get sacks out of their linebackers. Campbell, Rodriguez, and Trevor Nowaski all had sacks in this game, 3 out of their 4. Alex Anzalone, the captain of the defense, led their team with tackles with 8. I think with the increased blitz, I thought they were really, really good. I thought they got everything out of this linebacking core that they needed to get. That will be a huge part of how they transition the loss of Aiden Hutchinson and everything else they do moving forward here on defense. And let's discuss the secondary. You have to start with Brian Branch, who again is turning himself into an ultimate superstar weapon there on defense for the Lions. He gets himself another interception there in Minnesota. Also almost had a fumble pickup 6 that was called back there. Unfortunately, the player did step up before the fumble occurred, but was very close to having another score in this game. Again, Brian Branch just doing everything there. Jack of all trades, safety, in coverage, coming up in the blitz packages, tackling, just really doing everything possible to move this defense forward for the Lions. Outside of that, I thought their cornerbacks held up well. Justin Jefferson, who historically really destroys the Lions, was held relatively in check. He had 7 receptions for 81 yards, did have the touchdown, sort of beat Amik Robertson there on that go route there into the end zone. Did look a little bit like Justin Jefferson may have pushed off, but I also thought Amik Robertson could have turned his head a little bit quicker and made a play on the ball. Again, Justin Jefferson is maybe the best receiver in football. You're only going to contain him so much. Other than that, I thought the safeties were really only beat on that one deep ball down the field late in the fourth quarter by Addison. I think they sort of got caught covering their deep halves and just got beat down the middle there. I think they'll work on that. The communication of that will become better, but truly the safety position has been a strength for the Lions. At cornerback, again, I thought Terry Arnold held up well. I thought Carlton Davis was okay, limited on the penalties this week, so that was good to see. So overall for the defense, I'm giving them a grade of B. Again, I thought they held up well against a strong Minnesota offense. You had weapons there in Minnesota they had to worry about, especially in the wide receiver room, and I thought they held those guys in check. But the Lions ultimately, I think, still need an edge rusher. I think it was very clear their pressure rate. They weren't able to get home. Sam Darnold was able to escape and use his legs often, and the Lions actually gave up a little bit more in the run game than they typically give up. Aaron Jones averaged 6.6 yards per carry. Now, even if you factor out that big run in their first possession, he still averaged 4.5 yards per carry, which is atypical of the Lions' run defense. So again, what do they do at the edge position? Can they piece this together or change the scheme moving forward, or they still have to bring in an extra piece here to help them through the remainder of this 2024 regular season? And how about those special teams? Let's start with Jake Bates. What a fantastic story. You got to look at some of the quotes he had coming out of this football game. Just really inspiring there. Jake Bates ends up hitting the 44-yard game-sealing field goal for the Lions with 15 seconds left. He is 10 for 10 now field goals this season, only has the one missed extra point, but it's really been everything the Lions have needed in solidifying this kicking position. Jack Fox was his normal, usual self. 54.3-yard average, had a 63-yard long, and did pin them back with one punt inside the 10-yard line. I thought they limited the Vikings return game as well. They were good there. They held Minnesota in check. Didn't get much out of their punt return or kick return game here. I thought overall special teams, I gave a grade of A-. You have to love Dan Campbell and this coaching staff. What a resilient and fun group this Detroit Lions team is. Everything coming out of the locker room from this Week 7 victory is truly fantastic. Again, I implore you to go and watch those videos as well. The Lions just have an energy and a culture that's second to none. So let's start with the obvious. I thought the fake punt call in the first possession after they went 3 and out, I just didn't like the play call itself. I'm fine with the aggression. I understand why they wanted to do that. I think they knew that they, weren't sure what they were going to get out of their defense, so the more they could keep their offense on the field in this game was going to help them. So I understand it. It just didn't work in this particular sense against a better and prepared Minnesota Vikings defense. The offense, I thought, was dynamic. There were times, again, in that second quarter and third quarter where they just really took control of this game. 4 touchdowns on 4 possessions. Again, the offense in general is really rolling, and Jared Goff, again, has turned himself into the front runner for the NFC MVP. That's truly amazing. Defensively, I think the real question is, can they do enough schematically to generate pressures, generate sacks? I think they only had 15 quarterback hits in the entirety of the game. And again, they're really going to feel that loss from Aiden Hutchinson. So the question is, do the Lions still have to make a move and bring in another player or two on their defensive line? But again, overall, I thought in this game, I thought the coaching staff was very good. I thought they had great clock management at the end of this game, knowing they didn't want to put the ball back in the Minnesota Vikings' hands with enough time to drive the field, get a game-winning field goal, touchdown, whatever it may be. The Lions, I thought, managed the clock well. They were able to put themselves in a position for the field goal. They took the knees and burned as much clock as possible before getting that ball, obviously, through the uprights for the field goal and then kicking it back to Minnesota to complete this victory. That's going to do it for our Week 7 report card. The Lions' victory over Minnesota, moving them to 5-1 and atop the NFC North and NFC standings. Jared Goff looking everything of an NFC MVP candidate. The Lions offense rolling, and they are piecing it together as they move forward without Hutch in this defense. What did you guys think of this Week 7 victory? Did I do okay on the grades? What grades would you have given the offense, defense, special teams, and coaching for Week 7? Also, let me know what you think the Lions will do here on their defensive line. Do they bring in another player? Do they have enough on the edge to make this thing happen? Thank you guys so much for your time on this video, but more than anything else, make sure to take care of yourself and your mental health. That's most important. I want to make sure you come back and see me on future videos. Make sure to hit that like button. It's the best free way to help out the channel. I'd love it if you consider subscribing. We're just over 2,100 thanks to you guys. And if you hit the notify bell, it's the best way to make sure you don't miss any future videos. Again, thank you guys so much. Have a fantastic week. Go Lions.